Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for being here this afternoon as we develop our inquiry mindset, and each of us seeks to answer the question, how will you enter the classroom a different and more complete teacher than before as a result of our conversation today? I'm Sandy Benton, Field Consultant for the Wisconsin Green Schools Network. Our guest today is Trevor MacKenzie. Trevor is an award-winning English teacher and an instructional coach focusing on inquiry and technology from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Trevor is co-author of Inquiry Mindset, published in 2018, and author of Dive into Inquiry, published in 2016, both by Elevate Books EDU. We noticed in your the inquiry process journey that you've got the if folks are able to see this, that there's little road signs of reflect and revise all along that learning path. And you talk a lot in your book, or I saw this on your blog anyway, that based learning is not a hot mess. That's very deliberate and intentional and focused on student learning and standards. How, do you plan your units around when you're going to deliberately have students stop and reflect, or did these happen more organically in your classroom? Can you talk a little bit about how you develop those opportunities for student reflection and self-assessment?
Yeah, I think the short answer is both. And then I think the longer answer requires, how do you know when to do either? So definitely, I do some intentional kind of road stops, if you will, on that journey of inquiry together. And those happen at different kind of milestones, if you will, throughout the research process. After I've given them some time to unpack some resources and gather some evidence and consider, what it is that they've found, that would be a good time for me to pause everyone and get them to really look into what it is that they've gathered. And I'd ask them some questions about the validity of their sources. Has their thinking changed? How has their thinking changed? What are their next steps? So, in the research phase of inquiry, I'll definitely be really intentional with where we're stopping throughout. But sometimes it happens organically. Oftentimes students will just approach me, ask me what it seems like a really simple question. And in our short conversation together, I realized that, wow, what we're talking about here, everyone needs to hear this. And so all my students, they roll their eyes when I say this out loud in class. I say, okay, folks, can we just pause? I just want to lift up this conversation that I'm having with this student. And they all kind of roll their eyes because they know what's coming. We're just going to role play our conversation and repeat what it is that we've just said. And what I'm doing there is I'm modeling the power of reflection. I'm modeling the power of the facilitation. And I'm not just giving a student an answer, but we're having a conversation about learning where I'm really trying my best to have the student come to a better space through my facilitation rather than just give them the answer, if you will. And in that little holding up of that conversation, I look around the room and I see students' heads nodding because likely they're thinking something similar as to what that student's question was when they came up to ask me. And then they're seeing the strategizing, they're seeing the thinking out loud. And I think that's a really beautiful piece of reflection is, can we capture our students' understanding? Can we capture their thinking? So in my class, it happens organically in that fashion. Also in my class, I love to have my students turn and face each other in groups of 3. So a little pod, if you will, of 3. And what that allows me to do is, first of all, it creates the physical space in my room so I can actually walk through the groups and I can observe, I can notice what it is that they're doing. I could hear what it is that they're talking about. And I can even pull up a chair and sit with them to differentiate or just honor, celebrate, and listen. But I think the physical space that's freed up allows me to get into learning. But also what happens is I just can hear exactly what it is that they're thinking or what they're doing. And then I can provide personalized next steps to a specific group. Because what one group may need, I may turn around and hear another group and they don't need that whatsoever, that direct instruction or that support. So how do I actually physically change the way my classroom's designed so I can better personalize learning and reflection in the moment? Because, some intentional stops are really nice, but sometimes not all students need those specific stops at the same time. So how can I use my space to personalize for each individual group. Another piece is I don't assign a seating plan in my class. And because I want students to come sit together where they have some trust and where they have some confidence and communication skills and working together. And again, if I have pods of students that are kind of similar in terms of skills, I'm better able to differentiate, which means that I don't have to differentiate for 30 kids in my class. I can go around and differentiate for little pods of 3. And again, I think that means I'm better meeting the needs of each individual student, again, when I'm designing my learning space in a little bit different of a way. So going back to that initial question, I think it's both, Sandy. I think I intentionally stop throughout learning after I've given them some time to develop ideas or get through certain processes of the inquiry process. But sometimes it's organic, and sometimes the organic stuff, the informal stuff, leads to more formal reactions or responses from me in terms of planning my next steps in inquiry, if you will.
And what you're saying resonates so much with me in a workshop model for literacy, either the reading and the writing, and an inquiry workshop approach with the small group conferences and instructional opportunities that sounds like you're able to provide through that process.
My website, my social media platforms, those are really great ways to get in touch with me. And I'm very, very much open to that dialogue. It could be a direct tweet, it could be a DM or an email. And if you ever want me to retweet you, just simply tag me in a tweet. And I bring that up because in my global travels, there are 15,000 people who are part of that community of people who are following me on Twitter. And, if I don't have an idea that is going to support you and meet your needs, I'm sure someone in that group of 15,000 does, or at least has something that I don't. And so oftentimes I encourage teachers, tag me in a tweet, and that's our little, secret correspondence that you'd like me to retweet you. And before long, what you'll see is genuine interaction with people from around the world.